last presentation of the day, Numbers and Data by Simon Moran. Simon.
Moran, actually.
Oh, is that Moran?
Moran, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, oops. Anyway, Simon came to Japan in 1995 and worked above a flower shop until starting modern English in his spare room in 1998. And this has grown to a chain, a school in the UK, when publishing internationally. And he focuses on helping school owners tackle business issues. Okay, thank you, Simon.
Where's my volume, Jeremy? Where's my volume?
You didn't have me see my service first, right? No,
Technology. So Peter, I got my technical problem after all. Just like this on Live at Leeds. I'm supposed to be doing a dance right now. You are, mate? I'll smash your face. Well, hello everyone. It's me again, and I'm on last, which means either I'm the headline act or you will all be off to the pub in about 5 minutes. So does anybody have any idea what that music was?
I'm the face by the high numbers.
I'm the face by the high numbers. Well done. And who are the high numbers?
They were the Who.
Very good, excellent. And what about the paintings?
Jackson Pollock.
Jackson Pollock. Would anybody like to tell me the names of those paintings?
Number 1, number 5, number 7.
It's actually number one, and I've got it written down here. Number 5, number 8, and 31.
They all look the same.
They all look the same to me, and all those Who songs sound the same. So we have Jackson Pollock and his numbers and the high numbers. And we're going to talk about some more numbers and some data. But first, I'd just like to go over my intro again, because it wasn't long enough. No, that's not true. That's a little bit about us and what we do. We've got schools in Japan, sharing one in the UK. We publish books, and we sell those internationally. There'll be a couple of slides that will have commercially or personally sensitive data on them, so we'd be grateful if you would refrain from taking photos of those slides. It should be obvious which ones they are. I will be sending out a PDF of slides, edited, and notes if anybody wants to get in touch. And there's a flyer with a QR code at the back where you can sign up to my blog. And I'll be taking questions at the end of the presentation, so I'm going to leave quite a lot of time for questions. So if you could hold off till then, that'd be great. Feel free to heckle, but I just hold off your questions till the end. But first of all, I'd like to collect some numbers from you. So, quick quiz. So I think there are 42 people who have turned up today. If you could put your hand up, please, if you are a school owner. Right. So this is, and keep them up, please. This is a form of self-organisation. I stole this from Sugata Mitra, not sure if you're familiar with him. I'm going to get you to count your cells. So we start over here. Could you say 1, please?
1, 2,
3, 4,
5,
6,
7, 10,
11,
12, 13, 14, 15,
16. 16. Another teacher. Oh, 17.
18, 19, 20,
22,
23,
22.
24? 25?
26.
27, 28.
Anybody got the hand up and not said a number?
29.
20, we'll call it 28, 29. Okay, you can put your hands down. Thank you very much. So 29 school owners here. Of those 29 school owners, how many are, actually I put myself in that as well, we'll make 30, right? How many of those school owners are still, or are doing some teaching of some kind at their school or elsewhere? Okay, right. How many are doing no teaching at all? That's 2 of us. 2 of us. How many of the school owners who are teaching would like to step out of the classroom at some point? Quite a lot of you. Okay, all right, half and half from Jeremy over there. Or an impression of an emu kneeling down, one of the 2. Okay, right, well, for those school owners, how many of you have a chain school nearby, such as ECC or Nova, near your school? Right, okay, great. Keep your hands up, please. And how many of you are pretty convinced you're doing a higher quality job than that chain school? All of the hands are still up. Now please keep your hands up if the answer is yes to this question. Do you know that you are charging more for your higher quality service than that chain school? You are 3. So, thanks, you can put your hands down. So out of 32 owners, we've got 3 that are convinced that they're charging more than the chain schools for a higher quality job. Which isn't that many, really.
Hold on, but I'm going to heckle here, that's not a proper quote, that's not a proper statistic. Because you only...
It is, it's 3 out of 32, it's my statistic and I'm moving on. Does anybody know what this number is? That's not Jackson Pollock painting, no, he died an early death. He didn't get up to 29,990 in his paintings. How about that one? It's obviously one after the next one. They are ISOs. I think probably everybody knows what an ISO is. They're issued by the International Organization for Standardization in Geneva. These ones in particular are issued by JMOT. These are Japanese ISOs. For JMOT is the Japan Association of Management and Training, and these ISOs are issued to training and educational establishments. Anybody's school here have an ISO? Nope, didn't think so. Anybody's school here a member of a professional organisation such as Zengaikyo? I know Ryan's a member of Zengaikyo. Okay. These ISOs belong to Shane English schools. Shane English schools are one of those chains that you might have nearby you, and these were awarded to Shane English schools because they passed the ISO standard tests for quality and service, and they are not easy to get. Zengaikyo is a standards organisation. It's quite easy to join, but I wouldn't dare try for an ISO. And so this is Shane English schools at the moment. They have that number of schools and that number of students at their schools. Then they have more outside of kindergartens and business contracts. But that boils down to an average of around about 110 students per school, which is probably numbers that we're all quite comfortable with. Who has around about that many students at their school, or more, maybe? Yeah, quite a lot of us, yeah. So their numbers really should work in the same way ours do per school. Nationally, of course, very, very different. And the numbers and the data that I'm going to share are based on my school. Out of the 12 schools that we have, I own one of them. The others are franchises or affiliates. I own one, that's in Korea and Hirakata. And we have somewhere between 100 and 110 students. So I've rounded my numbers to make them easier. to deal with and present. So essentially, we're about the same size as a Shane school. Back to Shane for a second. I don't know how many of you know this. I know certainly the older ones amongst us do. I'm looking at you and me, David. When I say older, Shane English Schools was started by an English chap called Shane Lipscomb in his kitchen in Chiba in 1977, and he grew that chain up and sold it. And the book distribution service Nelly's, he sold that to ACO in 2010 for the reported sales price of $30 million. Wow, that is quite a figure. So it does give an indication. I think he claims he turned up in Japan with 50 quid in his pocket and built his chain of schools up to that. So that's why it's relevant. I think probably most of us have been in that position. We've come to Japan not really knowing what we're going to do, start a school in a spare room or a kitchen. And that is an illustration of what's possible. Incidentally, it's also a great illustration of why you should not listen to anybody, me included, who advises you not to name your school after yourself. Because this one was very successful. There's also a gentleman at the back of the room who successfully named his school after himself, David English House. David is over there. But what's in a name? What is it worth? And what are you worth? What are you worth, do you think? I'm not talking about necessarily net worth, it could be per hour worth. Would anybody like to tell me what they think they're worth?
Millions and millions.
Millions and millions. Pesos are not a valid currency in Japan, unfortunately.
6,000 yen an hour.
6,000 yen an hour? That's Lang says he's worth 6,000 yen an hour. Anybody else? Any advance or retreats on that? Or about net worth?
Juman a day.
Ichiman in a day? Like Juman a day. All right, I was going to say Ichiman is like the man with the flag. 100,000 yen a day. How many hours is that? 4. Okay, it's 25,000 yen an hour.
Are we thinking about how much we would rent ourselves out?
Yeah, I'm asking you what you think you're worth, so... all right. I'm going back to Shane again. These are the fee basic classes at Shane School with class sizes of 6 and 4 for adults and kids, and then monthly fees of just over 10 and just over 15,000 a month, plus a cleaning fee or a room fee. And the hourly return on that, these are 50-minute lessons, but if you average that out to an hourly return, that's almost 19,000 yen for a kids class and over 20,000 yen for an adults class. So just average it out, say it's 20,000 yen an hour. That is the market worth of an English class at a chain school, that you're all convinced that you're doing a better job then. So this is the area that we should be thinking about. Now Shane differentiate essentially by, they've got 5 things on their website. They say, but essentially 2 things are different to most people. One is that they have the ISO, and one is that they promote the fact that they have only qualified, experienced foreign English teachers. I know Ryan only recruits qualified teachers, we only recruit qualified teachers, and that's one way that we differentiate as well. So if you employed a full-time teacher for 300,000 yen a month and they taught 25 classes per week, that would be 3,000 yen per class, which would give you 7 times return on that teacher's salary at these prices. Is anybody getting 7 times return on the amount of money they pay to their teachers? Does anybody know the return that they're getting on the money that they pay to their teachers? I had a client once who I did a time and motion study with. It wasn't you, so and him and his wife were running a school, and we looked at the amount of money they were taking home, the amount of hours that they were putting in. And it worked out that both he and his wife, for all of the hours they were putting into the school, they were earning less than 900 yen per hour. They would have been better off working at Lawson's, financially, perhaps not emotionally. But we really, really need to think about how much we are worth and how much our time is worth. So you all want to know how much I think I'm worth, right? No? I can skip the slide. I think Jeremy's good at maths, so he can check that, see if it's wrong or not. I did a presentation last year on budgets, and the school that I own makes roughly 5 million yen a year net profit before tax. I don't teach, I don't work in that school. We teach 46 weeks of the year. I travel for at least 6 weeks outside of that, on top of that for work and for business. So I think I have about a 40 week period when I'm in Japan. If I'm in the school, I attend a team meeting, and I probably do around about 2 hours work on top of that. So I think I'm working in that school, for that school, I think I'm working about 3 hours a week. Tim Ferriss overstated it. It's actually the 3-hour working week, not the 4-hour working week. And if you divide all those numbers up, that gives 41,667 yen per hour. That's how much my time is worth. And that is what governs my thinking when I'm looking at either doing something myself or getting somebody else to do it. Anybody else getting 41,607? No? Sorry. I think it's really, really important that we think about what we're worth. Every hour that I spend doing flyers for my school, or changing the light bulbs, or doing the cleaning, is time when I'm not earning 41,000+ yen per hour. It's much cheaper for me. It actually makes me 40,000 yen an hour if I pay somebody 1,667 yen an hour to do work on my behalf. Because it's only taking 1,167 yen off my time, but leaving me with the 40,000 yen. Tim Ferriss also goes on about this in terms of how you can value your per hour rate and thinking about outsourcing. And we really need to think about this when we're buying in other people's time and services, and we really, really need to start to understand the difference between cost and value. There is a crucial, crucial difference between the two things. And so, sorry Jeremy, but you should outsource everything. All of it. Outsource it all. I, of course, have made my own flyers and I've renovated my own schools and stuff, but I don't anymore. I outsource as much as I can. And there are lots of people all over, in Japan and all over the world, who can do things much, much better than I can for very, very reasonable rates. And we've worked with people in Russia, India, Pakistan, Spain, the Czech Republic, Korea, Philippines, all over the world, and of course in Japan as well. You have to qualify your outsourced staff. You have to make sure they can do the job that you want them to do. So you need to set up, just as you would for an interview, you need to set up tests to make sure they can do what you want them to do. But outsourcing is very cheap. So,
there's nothing on the screen.
Yeah, it's blank. Yeah. I saw you focus on me then. And if possible, it's a good idea to hire an outsourced company to do all of this for you, because there's always hiring and firing and training involved. So if you can hire an outsourced company, that's a great way of outsourcing. Right, so it said little pause there, didn't pause for long enough. These are some more numbers and data that I want to look at. We've looked at per hour return. And these are some ways we can measure what we're doing. Jeremy touched on this again in his presentation. 44, we're running a school. These are some important numbers just to look at. Capacity, how much of it's filled, customer acquisition cost, customer lifetime value, and customer retention rate. Industries differ, of course, but a general metric in sales would tell us that it's 30 times more expensive to recruit a new customer than it is to retain an existing customer. I don't have a number on that for 8-hour schools, but obviously the longer you can keep your students, the better. So these get abbreviated, but capacity, how many classes do you have, what's the type, you can come up with a number, and how many students or bumps on seats. It's important to realise, for example, that an evening private of one person has the same seat number value as 4 people in a group, for example. And you should calculate the percentage filled. I presume everybody knows how to do percentage calculation. It's small number, big number, times by 100. I realise I've got a lot of English teachers in the room here. And they always say, English teachers often say, I don't like numbers. Apparently even people with master's degrees in maths don't like numbers. Customer acquisition cost, how much should you spend on marketing or advertising in a certain period? It could be a calendar year or an academic year, and how many people join your business from that. Customer lifetime, how long do they stay? When did they start? When did they finish? Calculate the time. The value, how much do they spend whilst they're a customer of your business? So if they stay for 5 years and they spend 10,000 yen a month, that's what, 600,000 yen? Is that right? And your customer retention rate. So the way to calculate your customer retention rate, again, is to take a period of time. So if you do a calendar year, start on the 1st of January and end on the 31st of January, what percentage of your customer body existed on the 1st of January and at the end? Basically, how many new faces do you have amongst the old faces? So the retained ones are hopefully the larger number. And again, this is a sales metric, but apparently a customer retention rate of 60% in sales is good. Personally, at my school, I want it to be much, much higher than that. And so this gives a good indication of how you're doing. And so, these are the numbers from my school at Korea. No photos for this one, please. Capacity of 125, capacity filled 80%. That's actually going to be true from April. It's not true at the moment. We're going through some changes at the moment. Cost of acquisition is 12,167 yen. That's how much it cost us in the calendar year to get one new student. However, our customer lifetime is just over 4 years, and the value is just over 500,000 yen. So, please disavow yourself of the notion that advertising is expensive. It is not. That return there is something like 41.2 times, 4,120% return on your advertising spend. Jeremy talked about guerrilla marketing. He's right, it's great, and all the word of mouth is great. Spending is also great. They all complement each other. How much would you spend to get 500,000 yen? Quite frankly, if Lawrence had 500,000 yen and I could buy it off him for 400,000 yen, I'd do it in a heartbeat. I would spend 400,000 yen to get 500,000 yen. Of course, it would be a 25% return. But I only have to, of course, I've got to service the customer for 4 years, but that's the value of advertising. And we've got an 80% customer retention rate, which is pretty good. Pretty good. But again, these are from my school. That's total students of all courses, all ages. So I can break the numbers down.
That's just at your school.
That's at my head school, yeah. If I break that down, you can see that we've got a 92% retention rate for adults, 70 for kids. Almost 6 years lifetime for adults. Only almost 3 for kids. And a lifetime value of over 750,000 for adults and not quite 300,000 for kids. Our location has a couple of demographic specifically things. We get a lot of students that come from families that work for Panasonic or UFJ, and they are in the area for 3-4 years. A high percentage of our parents are actually from the Kanto area, and they move on to somewhere else. Also, up until we published Happy Valley, which was 5 or 6 years ago, we didn't really have a brilliant preschool program. We now get a lot more kids in at a younger age, and they stay a lot longer. So my projections are that retention rate for kids will increase, hopefully by up to 50% over 3 to 5 years. But I think it's actually pretty low. I want to see a longer customer lifetime than 3 years for my kids. Adults, in the meantime, are very loyal. They stay longer. You can rationalize with them. You don't have to talk to their parents. They spend more money. And this data here would indicate, perhaps in contradiction to common thinking, that adults are the best students to have. They pay more and they stay longer. I'm not saying this is right for everybody. This is just food for thought. And this is our leaderboard. Up at the top there, number 1, Yuta Nishibori-kun, who's now a junior high school student, actually started in the 3rd year at Happy Valley, so he's been with us 10 years and 3 months, and he's spent almost 1.2 million. The next one is a flight attendant for ANA. She's on a free course. She's been with us for 13 and a half years, and her fees are almost 2.5 million. Total, and the bottom one, Akamatsu Mio-chan, has been with us since 2002. She's on a group course, which is why she's been with us longer, but her total fees are lower. The student at number 2 pays a higher, 20% higher for a flexible schedule. looking at the advertising that we pay for to give us that 12,000 and something yen spend. This is based on the last 1,250 students that joined my school. And you can see everybody's favourite, flyers, way up at top. Obviously there are different types of flyers. But then the second one is intros, basically word of mouth. Jeremy was talking about this earlier on. Word of mouth, without doubt, is the best form of marketing and advertising for all businesses worldwide. There is no doubt about it. That's why companies spend millions and millions of dollars on TV ads so that you talk about them. And then we've got Pado. Pado was still is a free magazine. It's changed a lot. I started in 1998. It was essentially pre-internet. The internet existed, but people certainly didn't have smartphones. Not that many people were connected to the internet at home. And I used to put 4 lines a week in Pado. It cost me 16,000 yen a month. And it got me hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of students. And I wish those days would come back. But they're not going to. And then, of course, we've got web searches, signs, don't know. And often I say don't know could be our biggest success story. We ask people how they know about us. They don't know how they know about us. They just know about us. So we've been doing a good job somehow. It's very difficult to track down. A station poster town page. And to give you an idea of some of the costs of those things, can you read that? It's quite small. We use a company called Crowdworks for outsourcing our designers. And they're great. And those are the fixed prices that we pay generally for A6 and A4 flyers. The printing prices are from King Printers in Osaka to print flyers. It works out at basically 1.5 yen per flyer, can't be right, 3 yen per flyer. And then for posting costs, either delivered into letterboxes or included in magazines, those are some rough costs there. And we pay flyer staff at the station 2,500 yen for 2 hours, which at the moment only gets us about 350 flyers out in 2 hours, which isn't great. Our record in handing flyers out is about 1,900 flyers in 3 hours. We were ably assisted by a Ukrainian model who was 6'4", and luckily Sean and I weren't so ugly that we could put people off. We've never bested that. So if you're going to outsource to Ukrainian models. And this was a man, not a woman, by the way. His wife, the woman, came to the party that we had, and she was equally tall, but she wouldn't get out of bed for that sort of money, and I can't say I blame her, really. But that was one flyer every 4 seconds. That was the amount of work that we were doing. I was giving Lang a bit of coaching on flyers earlier on, how to make sure they go into a hand rather than into a sternum. It makes a big difference in the uptake of the flyer. We average about 1,400 flyers per new student. It used to be a lot lower, but it illustrates that. We've been doing flyers for like 15 years at the station. People know who we are. They don't take so many of the flyers. So we have to make them, as Jeremy said, we have to make them awesome, free, and useful. We do all sorts of stuff. And then for posting flyers, we get a much lower hit rate on posting flyers. We probably get about 4 new students off a campaign, but they're much easier to do. We sit in the office, we do the design, or we outsource the design, we outsource the printing, we outsource the posting, and it's much easier work. But it all goes into the marketing mix, and that's a very important thing to think about. When you sit down and look at your marketing budget, how much are you going to spend, what are you going to spend it on? Signs are incredibly useful ways of attracting business, and you can depreciate the cost of a sign over probably at least 10 years, maybe longer. Make sure that your sign really, particularly if you're aiming at drivers, make sure it just says Eikaiwa, or the name of your school. Too much detail, you won't be able, a bit like this slide, you won't be able to read it from very far away. You just want to put it into people's mind that you're there. You also, you pay for web hosting and traffic. We pay more now for pay-per-click than we ever have done. We're doing a banner Google campaign this year. We put a 300,000 yen budget on for all 12 schools. But it all goes into the mix. You have to try things out, see what works, and track them. Make sure you track all of your results. Before moving on to some other numbers, we were talking about the chain schools earlier on and the fact that there are lots of independent school owners here who don't charge as much as chain schools. And I don't know why that is, but maybe it's lack of confidence or just lack of knowledge or lack of ability to explain your message to your audience. And I'm very interested, I think essentially as independent school owners who are dedicated to improving learning outcomes of our students, that we should be dominating and not following the industry. And I'm very interested in putting together a loosely or firmly affiliated group of school owners who can act together. Because there's a lot of power in this room. There are 50 schools or so in this room. That's a quarter of the size of Shane. There is a lot of power in this room. And if we can pool all of our resources and our ideas in a structured way, for example, over a Google Ads campaign, we do them nationally, you can set the locations. Those Google campaigns can be very, very complicated. You need 20 banners for each campaign to pop up for retargeting. That's a lot of production work. So if all 50 schools do 20 banners, that's what? 2,000? 1,000? It's a lot of banners, isn't it? So this is an idea that I want to get out to people, an idea of affiliated independent schools. Not run by me, but run by us all. So just, who qualified teachers, professional development, good financial advice, good good legal advice. These are things that we can do together, I believe. There are some other numbers on here, and how long have I got left? Nobody's paying any attention.
Fine. Simon, I told you I'd let you have 10 minutes before. You're fine.
Yeah, I'm fine. Okay, good. Doesn't answer my question, but okay. So, thank you. Roughly, I think we've all. I don't know how many students does one teacher teach in a week. Hundreds, a reasonable number. If you had an average of 4 students in a class, one teacher could probably teach 100 students, and that's a very scalable model for yourself to earn high income or to employ a teacher in. 167 yen would be the cost of 10 minutes. If you're paying admin staff 1,000 yen per hour and you do 10 minutes of admin on each student per month, that's 167 yen per student. 0, the number of admin staff necessary. Does anybody here have a school that does not have any admin staff present? There we go. So it can be done. It can be done. You can outsource those things as well. And 0% difference. As I said earlier on, 11 of our schools are affiliates of franchises and they have no admin staff there either. And the 0% difference is on the sign-up rate at free trials. It does not make any difference whether there is a receptionist physically in the room or on the telephone, based on our data and our experiences. 50% reduction in calls and emails. We've been using an automatic notification system and it's reduced the work that our admin staff have to do by 50%. 90% anticipated. When students are logging on and manipulating their own timetables, and we've automated all of our payment systems, our billing systems, I estimate that 90% of our admin work will be done automatically. So despite the drop in population, it might be possible we could see a future where we do not need any admin staff at all. 100 yen per month is what I think that automated system would cost. £1,500, which I think is about 230,000 yen, is the cost to become a qualified CELTA teacher. CELTA, thanks Leslie, CELTA is probably the best, most recognised qualification. Going back to Shane, a high percentage of their teachers have CELTA. The rest have at least a TESOL certificate, and $500 will get you a TESOL certificate from one TESOL accredited by TESOL Canada. It's also a very good idea to get a Young Learners certificate on top of that. David, how much does your Young Learners certificate cost?
Over the whole year,
60,000 yen. So you can add on about the same for a Young Learners certificate. It's crucial, particularly in Asia, to have a Young Learners certificate. The wonderful Leslie Ito did a survey in the spring issue of the 2017 Outsourcing newsletter, and respondents to that, 66.1% of them wanted qualified, experienced teachers. It's a way to differentiate in the market. 21 hours is the average time that we have spent recruiting somebody, not training them, just recruiting them. It's a pain in the neck. Recently, we've had a great deal of luck recruiting using a service called Jobs in Japan. It's much cheaper than Gaijin Pot, and the owner's a lot more handsome. And one invigilator. Currently in Cambridge assessment tests, there is the need for one qualified, trained invigilator. Later this year, Cambridge Assessment will be rolling out an AI solution to the native speaker in the room. The native speaker will no longer be in the room for those tests. 20 banners I've mentioned earlier on. I wasn't sure how many I was going to get through on all of this. How many years do you think you have left before AI takes over the role that your school provides? Good question. Might not be as long as you hope.
What's an invigilator?
It's a proctor in American English.
This is for Cat and Ted.
That's for young learners. Okay.
Really?
5 years.
Yeah, could be. These are ways you can contact me to get the PDF of the slides from here. And as I pointed out to Leslie, it's Moran actually, not Moran. That's where the name of my blog comes from.
Thank you, Simon.
No worries. So, we've got a bit of time left, so questions, please, fire away.
How do your prices compare to Shane?
We're a bit lower, but we're going up. Yep.
Okay, so you said you work 3 hours a week, and you gave us all these stats.
Yep.
Very detailed stats.
Yeah.
How did you do these accurately, or are you making them up?
Yeah, I just made them all up. Yeah, I just in the car on the way in. I've been collecting data on all of our students basically since I started, and we have an online scheduling student database and CRM system, and it produces that information automatically. You just need to select student type location, and it tells you all of that information. So obviously you've got to collect the information as you go. How did the people find you? What age are they, etc., etc. What are their fees? But our system calculates all of that information. And yes, I am selling that. David, yeah.
I understand your point about having prices higher, but
Yeah.
I worry about it.
Yeah.
Because
No, I
think
do.
It depends on what sector you're aiming at.
I absolutely agree. I think you've got to be very careful.
Mass market, or
Yeah.
are you aiming for a kind of rich elite?
I don't know if it's rich elite, but certainly there are sectors that are priced higher than others. But I think 23,000 students at Shane, I don't think they would probably consider themselves to be the elite.
Yeah, but we made a principle of not putting our prices that high, and we
Yeah.
sold 100,000 students in 35 years with a population of city with a population of 1 million.
Yeah.
And
How did that work out in the end?
And we had class size per class was higher than those.
Yeah.
So I think our income per class.
Yeah, there are lots of different metrics you can look at. I'm using these as an example, sure. And sectors absolutely are priced differently. The amount of I was speaking to one of our franchise owners, and he spends over $1 million yen a year sending his 5-year-old son to an international preschool. So sectors are definitely priced differently. Anybody else? Yeah, Paul.
Just a small point. You put about the printers.
Yep.
That looked pretty expensive to me. King's printers. Just my
Right.
observation.
Shop around.
Yeah.
That's the advice.
What I would just say is, if there is, if you have Japanese ability, that can.
Yeah.
They get them in 5,000 leaflets in 3 days for 8,000 yen.
Yeah.
So if you have Japanese ability,
Shop around.
there are
Yep.
more places to go.
Anybody else? Any hard questions? Yeah, Josh.
I don't know if it's hard.
Go on. Probably.
I do a lot of outsourcing as well,
Yep.
but I did do a lot of things on my own at first.
Right.
You mentioned that you said, well, do you think that it's important for people to try to do things on their own first so they know what to expect?
There isn't one job in my organisation that I haven't done. I've done it all. I started myself in my spare room, so I've done it all. I mean, I haven't done plumbing, but yeah, I've done it all. Yeah, you certainly learn. You learn your business inside out. Yeah, I've done that. I still occasionally lead flyer teams at 7 o'clock in the morning at Korean, much to encourage people as anything else. But yeah, there isn't a job that I haven't done, I don't think my DIY skills are quite up to Jeremy's. But yeah, I've painted walls and banged nails, clashed nails into things and stuff. But yeah, I think you certainly learn your business top to bottom if you do that, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, with all the outsourcing, how do you maintain a brand or unity among everything you got?
Well, nobody sees any of the outsourcing. It's all under the bonnet, as it were.
Yeah, I mean, how do you work with those different companies to be able to get them to, turn out stuff that...
So you have to give direction to the people that you're outsourcing to. For example, the designer, we have a to and fro with them, and it's all based on our requirements, but they do the technical design. But yeah, we're in charge of the brands. For example, when we did Happy Valley, we had people working all over the world, but we had an art director, a curriculum director, a lead designer. They all report to a manager who reported to me. Yeah, Paul. Sorry, Ryan, before Paul, because you've had one already.
Quick question. I'm using the CrowdWorks.
CrowdWorks, yeah.
For the design.
Yeah.
Do they have a system? Are you getting a different design range time, or do they have like?
No, we have the same one. Yeah.
You have a dedicated design.
Yeah, I mean, she may well quit at some point, as any member of staff could. But yeah, like I said, you've got to qualify, as you would your direct hires, you have to qualify your outsourcers, make sure they can do what you want, so that they get test pieces to do, and then we'll continue to work. The one we've got in a minute, touch wood, will stay for a long time, because she's absolutely phenomenal. Yeah?
Where did you get your figures when you said that, adults are the best choice?
From my database. Those figures. From my school. That's
okay, so just from your perspective.
Yeah, as I said, that's based on the students at my school. So according to that data, the adult students stay longer and pay more.
Is that data like from when you started to now?
No, it's not quite from when I started. I started in 1998. At the time, I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. So no, it's reliable data from about 2001, I think. Yeah, Paul.
Yeah, keeping the admin costs down, I understand that, I get that completely. What I find difficult to sort of to balance is really the fact that the personal service, where we are, the people who come to us from very close around, parents, and personal service, there's a lot of value in that.
There might be. Have you done a survey on that?
So I of course I don't have the detail, but what I'm saying is there is a possibility that you may not be accounting in reducing your admin costs.
Well, so as the 0% figure that I quoted is the difference between the head school where there are receptionists and the 11 other schools where there are no receptionists, and there's no noticeable difference. And I've got data on it, so...
But this is all from your perspective and your...
It's all the data that I have, yeah, but it's several thousand
students. So when a trial student would come through your door to do a trial lesson, whether there's an admin staff there or not, makes no difference.
Makes no difference to the
sign. The mother's going to sit there and watch a class.
Makes no difference to the sign-up rate. They speak to somebody after that. Yeah. The head office on the phone. We operate a remote admin centre. Yep.
Have you tried newspapers? I noticed you tried
we've done inserts into newspapers. I haven't done copy ads in newspapers. I mean, I think if you're doing inserts for flyers, it really doesn't matter how you deliver them. A good idea is to get that newspaper yourself and see when it's really heavy. Try and choose the days when it's not so heavy. You could be competing against that much stuff that just gets automatically thrown into the bin. And I think that's what happens with origami. Posting flyers. Handing flyers out is much, much more effective. You get to see some ugly white bloke in a jacket going, "Oi, come to me school."
When you started your school, was your vision to eventually franchise?
I started my school because I didn't like working. No. For other people. But my ambition was not to teach. I wanted to get out of the classroom. I enjoyed teaching. Never felt particularly comfortable teaching very young learners. But when I started to take things seriously, when I first started, I didn't know whether I was going to stay in Japan. But my ambition was to get out of the classroom. I had a brief flirtation with the branch, didn't enjoy it. And so the idea for franchising was to put people in the position that I was in when I started working for myself and things start to mean so much more, but provide a toolkit of services that people can use if they can't speak Japanese, can't answer the phone. Nobody can do everything. And you certainly can't answer the telephone while you're teaching, and that's when you're going to be getting calls from prospective students. And my time is up. Thank you very much.